Lately, the media has been flooded with news about rising tensions between Russia and Ukraine. The situation is escalating to the point where many fear a full-scale war might break out. In response, the US has evacuated staff from its embassy in Ukraine, signaling just how serious things have become. But why are Russia and Ukraine, two countries that once shared such close ties, now locked in such fierce conflict? Today, I'll explain it as simply as possible. As you may know, Ukraine and many Eastern European countries were once part of the Soviet Union. For decades, Russia and Ukraine lived like brothers, sharing history, culture, and ethnic roots. In fact, the ancestors of modern Russians are believed to have originated from what is now Ukrainian territory. That's why the two countries were once deeply connected. However, everything changed when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. Ukraine declared independence and became a sovereign state, quickly becoming the second largest former Soviet republic in terms of economy, military, and geopolitical importance. One of Russia's first concerns was the Crimean Peninsula. Although Crimea once belonged to Russia, it was gifted to Ukraine by the Soviet Union in 1954. While not rich in natural resources, Crimea is strategically vital because it houses the deep water port of Sevastopol, Russia's only naval base that remains ice-free in winter. Losing Crimea would significantly weaken Russia's trade routes and naval capabilities. The second major concern was security. Ukraine lies between Russia and NATO. For years, it served as a strategic buffer zone, separating Russia from the Western military alliance. If Ukraine turned toward NATO and allowed Western troops to be stationed there, Russia would be facing a security threat right on its doorstep, like having a loaded gun pointed at your home. So, Russia wants to keep Ukraine within its sphere of influence. Like a lover it cannot let go. Meanwhile, the West, especially the US, doesn't want to lose this beautiful bride either, and keeps trying to pull Ukraine closer. So which side did Ukraine choose? At first, Ukraine tried to balance both sides, receiving aid from Russia while also seeking benefits from the West, without fully committing to either. But this balancing act couldn't last forever. The country became divided internally, with one faction leaning toward Russia and another toward the West. In late 2013, the Ukrainian president at the time refused to sign a trade agreement with the EU, favoring closer ties with Russia instead. This angered the pro-European faction, sparking massive protests. In 2014, the government was overthrown, the president fled, and a new pro-Western administration took power. Seeing the shift in power, Russia quickly deployed troops to seize Crimea. It organized a referendum in which over 90% of voters, mostly ethnic Russians, supported joining Russia. Although the United Nations rejected the legitimacy of the vote, Russia officially declared Crimea part of its territory. But things didn't stop there. In eastern Ukraine, home to many ethnic Russian separatist movements rose up against the new government. Russia was accused of backing these groups with weapons, funding, and personnel. Years of bloody conflict followed, resulting in tens of thousands of casualties. The situation escalated dramatically when separatist forces allegedly shot down Malaysia Airlines Flight M17, killing nearly 300 people. Economically, Russia cut ties with Ukraine. In response, the West imposed harsh sanctions on Russia. While these sanctions hurt, Russia managed to hold out thanks to its vast resources such as oil, gas, and gold. Ukraine, however, struggled and eventually agreed to a peace deal in 2015 to avoid total collapse. The situation cooled down for a while, but recently, tensions have flared up again. With Western support, Ukraine's economy began to recover. The US sold it weapons and missile systems. The UK, Turkey, and other NATO members signed new military cooperation deals with Ukraine. This made Russia nervous, fearing Ukraine was becoming a de facto NATO ally. In response, Russia moved around 90,000 troops to the border, raising the specter of war once again. President Vladimir Putin demanded that the US promise Ukraine would never join NATO, but the US and its allies refused to make any firm commitment. Many experts believe that if war breaks out, The West is unlikely to intervene militarily, as no one wants a direct confrontation with a nuclear power like Russia. Instead, the response would be tougher economic sanctions. Will sanctions be enough to make Russia back down? The answer remains uncertain. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.